So, hello everyone. Yeah, thank you for having us today. Thank you, Greg and Michael, for that introduction. It's really cool to be here, and as you already put it perfectly, actually, yeah, this is probably the one cool thing that this whole situation has brought to us. So definitely would be better to meet in person. I've been in Los Angeles once or twice. I would love to be there for this meeting, of course, but yeah, that's not allowed, at least for now. So I can just look forward to that. So I'm here with Seba. Hey, Seba.
Hey, how are you? Hi, everybody.
Cool. So yeah, we're we're just planning on doing some recap of the best and the greatest announcements that were made from Build. So let's just kick this off. First, I would say, yeah, so basically, who are these guys? Well, hey, I'm Nico. So I'm a Microsoft MVP. I work as CTO at XABLU. XABLU is a Dutch company, but more often of a remote first kind of company. I'm a mobile developer, open source contributor. You might know me from projects like MvvmCross or some other small or bigger, yeah, different kind of libraries, but mostly in the Xamarin space. Yeah, who are you, Seba?
Yeah, well, hello, everybody. I'm Sebastián. My name is so long, so I use the short version. You can call me Seba if you want. I'm Microsoft MVP on the Azure category. So I'm working with cloud solutions, mobile development, and also some blockchain projects. I'm work with Nico in XABLU. So I'm very happy to be here. I was planning to go to LA actually this year, but well, it's difficult. Maybe next year. I would like to be there, but well, here we are, and I'm very happy to be invited. So thank you very much to the organization.
Oh, yes. And by the way, we're both Argentinians, so sorry for our English in any case. And yes, thank you for understanding for making the effort to understand our weird accent, of course. So yeah, that's who we are. Um, so let's talk about the agenda. First, we will discuss, general stuff about Bill. What was it, in case anyone missed it, or what it is in any case. So we'll continue with the journey to 1.NET. We'll talk about MAUI just for a little bit. We have some very quick demos there. We will discuss Windows, all the announcements for Windows, for Azure, artificial intelligence, and stuff, general stuff. And finally, but not least, we will talk about collaborating from home. How does Microsoft envision this whole thing? So first things first, Microsoft Build 2020. This was the very first time it went in a digital way. It went remote. So we could say it was probably one of the largest virtual events in the world, exclusively virtual. And that's because it basically was for an endless stream of sessions. We had 48 hours of uninterrupted streaming, and that, yeah, over there we had over 600 sessions. Of course, some of them were recorded and some of them were repeated in different time zones, but still that was really amazing. And probably one of the biggest number ever is that it more than 200,000 people register for the event. And the event is, so the numbers are just incredible if you compare it to the previous year, where something like 6,000 people attended the event in person. So this is just another scale, right? So this is remote, and this is really a global audience that attended this event for the very first time.
Yeah. It was the first totally free version, but also you can get all the content on time. I mean, you would be able to see all the streaming in the live sessions. So it was very different from other editions, and I think that it was a very huge change for remote events. I mean, everything is going to change, I think, and we have a lot of new things to show you about the remote events. Especially, take a look to Satya's talk, and what you can see in the background is something different. Is he in Microsoft? Is he in an office? Where is he?
Looks to me like he's at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, all the speakers there were at home, very familiar, in a very different way that they usually show all the content. I mean, they are in the Channel 9 studios or in some offices, in Microsoft offices. But this time was very, very different. What you can tell us, Nico, about the content that Satya told?
Well, to me, it was really, really inspiring. I mean, there was no better way to start the recap for Bill than just, putting Satya's face there. Because really, even if you didn't if you didn't have the time to watch the endless streaming, then I think his keynote is really worth your time. So he really goes into how Microsoft envisions this whole situation and how are they really helping, in many different ways to, improve this current situation, and very different set of topics. He talked about artificial intelligence, but also about Power Platform and Power Apps, many different things. So definitely it kind of led us, see where Microsoft is heading in the future. But also taking what you were saying, Seba, we had, for example, Nat Friedman, who for Xamarin developers is a very familiar face, I would say. And he's in his own garden. So he's at home again. And they were really transparent about that. So it was really funny to see, for example, Scott Hanselman to just grab his phone and then without interruption, just to continue his video recording, going through his entire house. And it was just funny, because they are not hitting anything from us. They really open their houses. And I'm not sure if they, it was, I'm not really, I think it was planned, of course, but it felt like very casual and like very human, like we didn't get the feeling that they were super people or they had special powers. They were just humans living real lives. And especially about Scott Guthrie, sorry, with his typical red polo, well, he was again at home, and he emphasized a lot on his Q&A session about the fact that we're humans and we're here to celebrate that. So he said, for example, himself, that very much of what Microsoft is doing right now is ensuring that they not only create products that make us more productive and that allow us to achieve and to do more, they are also really committed into making this tooling fun to use. So it's not really irrelevant to have emojis in GitHub or to have the ability to send GIFs. That's important. That's part of our lives. And with this remote situation, that's probably not going to change. So we will use more and more remote tooling, and it should be fine to use. We're humans, so let's celebrate that. Those aren't my words. I don't take any credit for those. Those were from Scott, and I really love them.
Yeah. It was a big difference from last year's build. It was very, very human.
Yes. So Seba, let's jump into the content. These talks were great, but let's get our hands dirty. So what do we have for all to express?
Well, we can start talking about the future of .NET. We knew last year in the last year presential edition that .NET 5 was announced, but not only .NET 5, but .NET 5, .NET 6, and .NET 7, and .NET 8. So where are we now? I mean, where is the Microsoft Build event in this timeline? We are between the announcement and the release of .NET 5, but also there is a special situation currently, and it's very difficult to reach that maybe promise. So the big question is .NET 5 really going out? Is going to be released at November? Well, the announcement was very optimistic about that situation. And if we take a look to the repository, I mean, it's open source and it's in GitHub, we can see that it's actually almost in a 70%. So it's very, very, very close to be finished. I think that they are going to make it. But if you can take a look to the date, the announcement is to the last day of November. So they are optimistic, but they are waiting for the last time to release the
November 30.
The
that's
version.
Yeah.
It's a last minute version. Yeah. So what about this .NET 5? .NET 5 is going to be used for from a lot of technologies. I mean, we are used to work with different versions of .NET for desktop applications. We are using .NET Framework, but we can also work with .NET Core for web applications, and then we have Xamarin for mobile applications. So we are used to work with different versions of .NET. .NET Standard help a little bit, but actually we had a lot of versions, and it was so confusing and so hard to have a strong known about .NET. So .NET 5 is going to be used for each technology, as you can see in the graphic, but also with all the IDs. I mean, with all the tools that we are using for development. It's the same to use Visual Studio and Visual Studio for Mac and Visual Studio Code, and also the command line. So it is going to be so helpful for the developers, and it's going to be a real different experience for the developers. We like to say that one of the big things in .NET 5 is the singular developer experience. It's very different and it's very unique. I mean, I don't really know other technology that has a similar experience. I don't know. What do you feel about this, Nico? About this new experience in .NET 5?
It's something we're definitely not used to because it doesn't exist. I was also say so. There's no such a tool out there in the industry that allows you to build for desktop, for web, to build a cloud native app and reuse the same language, the same skills, the same IDE to build a mobile app and then go build a game and an IoT solution. So it's really nothing that we have seen before. So I'm quite excited about this one. Yeah.
And also, well, some other stuff that we have the integrated runtime. We have also more container support, and actually other stuff like HTTP3 and, well, more amazing stuff. But the big thing is that we are going to use the same version of .NET for everything. So I'm really enthusiastic about this specific thing. But
so there's this is all right. You know, there's the integrated runtime, so .NET Core, Xamarin plus .NET Framework. It's going to be we will have a single one. But what does that mean for .NET Framework? Will it die?
Whoa, what a question. What do you think? I mean, .NET Framework is not going to be used anymore, but it's going to die. What happens with my application? Imagine if I am a .NET Framework developer, I have a project and an application. What is going to happen? I have to migrate my project. I can still work on .NET Framework. What do you think? It's a very interesting question. Well, the thing is, it's not going to die. unless for now. I mean, we know what could happen with this technology, but it is going to be alive, and it is going to be updated. You will have security updates. You will have a lot of cryptographic and network updates. All the issues are going to be fixed. So it is going to be maintained. It is going to work, but you won't have any new stuff there. There is not going to appear anything new. I mean, it is going to be support, but it's not going to be added some new stuff.
Right.
So yeah. It's not going to evolve, and it's going to, I don't know, be recommended to migrate maybe your applications, because it's not going to incorporate any new stuff, but it is still going to work. So it is a good, very good news to
yes, at least now we're released.
Yeah.
But what will happen to net standard then?
Well, the net standard is just a specification. It was very helpful for devs to reuse some libraries and some code between .NET Core and Xamarin and some technologies, but it was not actually a technology. It was just a specification. So it is not going to be used anymore. I mean, there is not going to be a new version of Net Standard, because the new standard will be .NET 5. So we can say that .NET 5 is going to be the new specification, but also the new implementation of the technology. But if you are using .NET Standard, actually, you can still use the same version. I mean, no new version are going to be released, but you can still work on your current version, and it's going to be okay, because it's just a specification. We really like this quote from a program manager of Microsoft. It's very clear about how it is going to work, and there is a funny stuff about the number version of .NET. Why is .NET 5 and it is not .NET 4? Because it is the next version of .NET Core, and the last version of .NET Core is .NET Core 3. So why is not .NET 4 and it is .NET 5? Do you know, Nico?
Well, if I should make a guess, it's because it would be too boring, maybe, to just... No, I really don't know. Why is that?
Well, that could be true, maybe. But the real thing is it was so confusing because .NET Framework has a current 4 version. I mean, the current version of .NET Framework is 4.7, I think, or 4.8. That is going to be released. So that number 4 is so confusing for maybe a new version, because you could be asking if you are using .NET Framework 4 or .NET 4. So the decision was, okay, let's move all the version to .NET 5, and it's going to be very clear for all. So that is the origin of the number.
One last thing about Net Standard, as Seba said, it's not going to be there's not going to be any version for .NET Standard, but definitely some concepts that were brought with .NET Standard, like multi-targeting, for example, and things like that, will for sure be part of the ecosystem. So it's more that there's no any need anymore for .NET Standard. That's why we're phasing that out, I would say. But definitely, if you need to, reuse some new library, even with older versions with some legacy code, then you will still be using .NET Standard. That's for sure.
Yeah. And Nico, we are mobile developers, so we are expecting a lot of Xamarin Forms or Xamarin announcements. So talking about Xamarin Forms, I was expecting a lot of announcements, a lot of new stuff, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of outstanding stuff, but actually it was just announced for next version of Xamarin Forms. The announcements were just UI changes, maybe some upgrades to hot reload. I mean, it's very cool. Hot reload's very huge change, and it's very cool, but it's not a very new thing. So what happened there? I was expecting very different stuff, but it is actually, I don't know, tab view.
Yes.
Where are the real announcements? I mean, look at the monkey that is at your side, and I think that the monkey is very
It's a bit
confused
sad,
about
isn't
this.
it?
What happened there? Where are the announcements?
Yes, well, first I think most people really knows because I think he had MAUI in the last meetup. So all the announcements might have been landed here, I guess. But in any case, what's happening is that there's a wave that's taking this monkey who knows where, and that wave is the .NET 5 to .NET 6 wave. So yeah, there's a lot of announcements, a lot of big news, of course, but that's sort of something in between .NET 5 and .NET 6. So at this moment, it's not entirely certain, yeah, whether this will go out as a single chunk of work out with .NET 6, or if we might get something to use before that. So that's why the team just called this the .NET 6 .NET 5.6 wave, and yeah, we'll see. Who knows at this moment? Actually, this new thing is going to have a new name, and that's going to be .NET MAUI. Now, yeah, there's been a lot of controversy with this name. I'm not sure if anyone heard about that. I would love to read you in the chat window, by the way, if you're there. So if you heard of any issues with the name or things like that, or how about the organizers? How about you, Greg? Did you hear anything about those issues? Anything that might have happened there?
Yeah, and it depends which ones you're referring to, but I know it's gotten a bit of a reaction out of folks.
Yes. So about that clash, I guess that what I'm referring to. Yes. So very bad news. There's a clash with the name, and there's another framework for the Linux world. It's called MAUI, and it's been there around for a while. So yeah, it's a very sad thing. It's just there's no better way to put it, I think. But I believe everyone is acting on the best, and with the best of interests, and they will reach out to a solution with this, I'm sure. So for now, it is recommended that we speak about it as that we refer to it as .NET MAUI, because if you go search something in Google and you just say MAUI, well, is that really about MAUI or is it about .NET MAUI? So for now, and I think if we hear anything else, .NET MAUI is the right way to refer to it. So .NET MAUI stands for .NET Multi-Platform App UI. So MAUI is definitely more sexy, I would say. And what is it? Well, it is a new framework. It is a new cross-platform framework that provides a native experience. So same as with Xamarin Forms, this is actually the evolution of Xamarin Forms. Of course, it's going to be based on that code, but we're encouraged to look at it as a new framework. They are starting over with many, many things. So it's going to provide a new, unique experience of having a single project, and that's thanks to multi-targeting. So that concept is definitely not going away. And yeah, so we will be able to share even more code. We'll be able to deploy to multiple devices, mobile, desktop, anything that we like in parallel, which is awesome. And as mentioned, it's the evolution of Xamarin Forms. But yeah, the sad news is that this is going to be targeting .NET 6. So it is expected we might get some previews before this year ends. But for now, if you go to the repository, then it only contains a lot of specs, really a lot of ideas. But for the code, it's really the Xamarin Forms code base plus some small refactorings and renames for namespaces and those kind of things. So regarding compatibility, it's going to be very similar to Xamarin Forms again, but we see some interesting things, like, for example, that Mac OS is going to be supported by Microsoft in this case. So they are going to invest themselves some resources there. And we see Linux as community maintained, but yeah, the Xamarin Forms team said that, yeah, they're even considering taking over support for that in the longer term once they figure out most stuff. So really, all of this is really exciting. And regarding Windows, we see there that there's, UWP and WPF for Xamarin Forms, but we don't see anything for MAUI. So we'll talk about that later. Just remember this point when we look at that. So Seba, this is a screenshot that I took from the Scott's session. So Scott Hamster and Scott Hanselman. Do you see anything weird or anything strange there in this screenshot, specifically about the Solution Explorer, maybe?
Yeah, I was looking that there is no Android project and there is no iOS project. There is just no the shared project. Where are the other Xamarin projects?
Well, this is not really Xamarin, this is .NET MAUI. That's why.
Wow.
So this is the single project experience that they have showed us at Build. This, of course, is just a demo. It's pretty hacked around, but this is the general idea. So we will have, thanks to multi-targeting, we will have a very special folder called Platforms, and then we will be encouraged to add our code there. And if you look at some others, points or items in that tree view, you can see that we have a single folder for resources, and within there we have fonts, we have images. So it is expected that by default, MAUI will handle all of those for us automatically.
Yeah, Nico, but what if I have to change something like the manifest in Android and some specific information in the platform? What is going to happen?
Well, that's a very good question, because of course, if you're using Xamarin, then you might have a reason for that, and you're not doing it PWA or anything like that. And that's in many cases because you need to do some weird stuff with configurations, and you just need, maybe it's a multi-tenant app, could be anything really. So yes, that question was was asked a lot, I would say, during these sessions, and it is, the answer was always the same. So we will not lose the flexibility that has always characterized Xamarin, and we will be able to keep that 100% customization layer for apps. So that's pretty cool.
Great, and I see that XAML is used for the views, so it's maintained from Xamarin Forms. That I don't see this. If it is, I see a binding. I think that MvvM is still used there, but is maybe any new pattern or any difference in this MAUI platform?
Oh yes, so there's some news there as well. So I like MvvM, I like XAML, but I rather use C# for all my stuff. So I'm super happy about this. We won't really go too far on this one, because I'm not sure if Mali showed this in the last meetup that you hosted. Maybe she did, right?
Yeah, we didn't go too in depth on it, but she showed some samples and talked through it a little bit. Yeah.
That's cool. So let's, this MVU stands for MvvmCross updates. It's a very new pattern to us C# developers, I would say. This is not, of course, a puristic way of doing MVU. There are a lot of things that you can criticize from this implementation, like the state is not initialized properly. It's actually mutable. Many things that we can say this doesn't really make sense as MVU, but it's still cool, and it's very similar to this to the Swift UI experience. So what I have here is a demo that's from Comet. Comet is the proof of concept that initialized that started with the MVU approach for Xamarin. And yes, so just for the sake of showing off because it's awesome. I will give this a go. Let's go real quick. By the way, I'm using Visual Studio Code, Seba, right? Do you notice?
Yeah. I was expecting for Visual Studio for Mac, but it's very cool that
yes.
Visual Studio Code is used.
It's pretty cool. So this has, if I tap on here, you see that it works. So I have my button and I have an event handler. But if trust me, there's so many things that we will be able to do. Like for example, this is hot reload. It's not just the Visual Studio Code stuff. So if I type something there, you see that I didn't even save the file. So it's there, it's not saved. But as you can see in the screen, it now has 2 errors. So it has a really awesome hot reload there.
Amazing.
Super excited. I had to do it. Sorry, everyone. It's just too awesome to not do it. So is it all, Seba?
No. Well, as you can see, you can use Visual Studio Code for development. So it's very good news for the developers that are used to work in Macs. But also the hot reload is going to be better, as you can see. It's going to be very fast and very cool. And another thing is that the renders are going to be recreated, so it is going to be more performant, very fast and very good experience for the user. So I'm very excited about these specific changes, but also we have another cool stuff that we are going to talk about. That is, it has Blazor support. Wow, this is very different. I mean, using Blazor in Xamarin, but not Xamarin, but MAUI is very cool. I mean, it's very different what we are used to working. And also, well, something that was introduced in the last versions, but it's very used, is the Xamarin Essentials. That is going to be part of .NET. I mean, you are just going to use a system library, and you can use their Xamarin Essentials. It's going to be part of the language. And also, if you have a project using Xamarin Forms, a previous version of Xamarin is going to work, so it has backward compatibility. You had not to be worried about this migration between Xamarin Forms and MAUI. I think there is going to exist a migration, but it's going to be very easy to use. They are working on doing this step very easy to the user. So yeah, for the users, it's going to be very easy step.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, actually, you can. MAUI might be the single framework that will allow you to build a single app using some. There's nothing that stops you from developing some screens using Blazor, some others using XABLU and MVVM, and some others using MVU. It's not that you should, that's going to be a mess, but you can. So that's by itself is quite great.
And awesome. You can use Shell with all that stuff.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So talking about the naming, the namespaces. Well, we can say this, but maybe it's going to change because of the naming issues that we told you. But we are expecting to have a namespace change. I mean, from Xamarin Forms namespace to System MAUI namespace. This is going to be the new namespace for all the platform, and also the Xamarin Essentials is going to be system devices. It's going to be in the language. It's awesome. I mean, it's not an external library anymore. It's
right.
Yes, it's introducing the language. And also we have the traditional approach. We have the traditional platforms as Xamarin iOS and Xamarin Android. They are going to be .NET for iOS and .NET for Android. I mean, if you want to continue using the traditional approach, you can still do it, but as a part of .NET. So it's going to be very interesting, this change. But it's also, I don't know, I'm very sad is the word melancholic? Maybe about the losing this Xamarin name. It's not going to be used anymore.
It's going to be strange. It's going to be strange.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure how many mobile developers do we have here, but we're interested actually into knowing what's your opinion. Do you have a take here? Whatever, we'd like to open a bit of this space here to, if there's any question about this as well, we're very happy to know your opinion here.
Yeah, your feelings. Do you like this announcements? Do you like MAUI? You are Xamarin Forms lovers. You hate Xamarin Forms. You hate MAUI. What do you think?
Yes, maybe somebody is just sad that this is going to, they just wanted Xamarin to go away, you know, and this is going to become part of .NET now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I'm definitely a little sad to see, you know, I've been invested in the whole Xamarin thing. Well, technically Xamarin was like a name change from when I started on this too, with Mono Touch and Mono for Android way back in the day. But, you know, Xamarin became such an iconic name and brand, so it's definitely a little bit sad to see that going by the wayside, but it makes a lot of sense if I take emotion of it, I guess.
That's cool.
So,
yeah,
so I'm
that's
curious
a good point.
too, like, you know, from your perspective, especially as like a maintainer of MvvmCross, like what are your guys' thoughts on, you know, MAUI and what that might mean for either that framework or other similar frameworks that are out there?
That's a very good question, I would say. So yeah, MvvmCross has traditionally been, of course, an MVVM framework, and yeah, and I would say that in the case of MAUI, so the people working right now with your product is quite happy because they are now allowed to do a lot of refactorings. So if we look back at how Xamarin Forms started, then it's a code base that started as a proof of concept, and it just continued growing until what it is now. So that's why they, for example, want to do this renderless refactoring, things like that. And the same, a little bit of the same kind of applies to MvvmCross. So if we really want to take it to the next level, then we have codes from 2011 there, and we have probably too many layers that we can just get rid of. So it's definitely something that we should maybe discuss on in terms of yes, what are we going to do with it, so to say. I mean, to take it farther, because many things are just optimized for MVVM. So MvvmCross might make sense, maybe, but it's definitely a discussion that the community needs to have. And same will go for Prism, for example, and of course about Blazor as well. So I'm really not sure.
Yeah. Nico, I know you are a very enthusiastic developer, but you know, what if I have a project and I'm blocked? I mean, I have an issue and I don't really know how to solve it. What can I do? How can I call to get help?
Well, that's a good question, because that triggers me to the next slide, and that's about a very special small gift that we have on behalf of XABLU. So if your team, if your technical team is stuck in any task, in any challenge that you might be facing, if your app is not really reaching those 5 stars, if your users are not using what they are supposed to be using, if you need some external help, maybe for quick code review, or if you're just stuck with nuggets, things like that we just it just takes time and to do it right, especially when you have to deal with so many things, so many platforms. That's the case for the developers in general. Then you can reach out to us, and the special gift for in this case is that on behalf of XABLU, we have a service that's a very specialized, dedicated fanatic support for Xamarin apps, and most than anything. And we have 1 hour free for all of you. So thank you for attending up to this point. and I will paste. I need to paste a link on the chat window, but I'm not sure where should I do it. I have Q&A, but otherwise, where should I drop
Don't
this?
you have the? Do you want me to?
Oh yes, I see that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you could drop that in the
Thank you,
chat,
Nico.
and we'll also be sure to send that out to folks as well. So I'll copy that off to the side.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so definitely just so the steps are first to book a very short call so that we get to know what the project is about, and then we offer a 1 hour support entirely for free. So there's nothing there they had to pay, just for free, because we love Xamarin and we will love to reach out, and we love the community as well. And then you get access to a portal that contains some news. Generally, we try to have some, it's sort of a knowledge base for Xamarin issues and things like that. You get it for free as well. So yeah, that's the special offering. That's something just for you. By the way, try to really use the link as soon as you can, because it's going to expire. I'm not really sure when, but definitely it's going to expire.
Can I use it, Nico? Can I use my hour?
Well, but you might have to solve your own problem because you might
Oh.
get you might be assigned your own ticket then. All right, so let's move on. We
Okay.
have some more announcements.
Don't you have any question? Do you have any question? It is the time.
It doesn't
Okay.
look like we have anything just yet, but I'll be sure to stop you if anything crops up.
Okay, no problem, no problem. We can then continue.
Sure.
And we talk about .NET Framework, and this is related to Windows development. But what is going to happen? Because I'm really confused about Windows development. But what is the best tool to use? What is happening with this window development?
Well, the way I see it is that, you know, development for Windows is fun again. There's you know, that's just it. So what was announced at Build is something really, really nice. That's Project Reunion. So first, this is a screenshot from one of the talks from the Windows team. And here we see different states of the art. So what you were recommended to use if you were developing for Windows at a certain period at the same time. The reality is that all these different SDKs, all these tools are still alive. So now, if you're just a very you know, new developer to the platform and you need to develop something for Windows, then what should you use? Should you go for WPF, UWP? Should you just go with Electron because Windows is, and what Microsoft offers is just, you know, not good enough? Well, it's really tricky, and especially with this barrier, with this that we have between UWP apps and WinR2 apps, that they are really not compatible. So yeah, there's a lot of fragmentation in the Windows ecosystem coming from the .NET world. And Project Reunion is all about conciliating those differences. So it's all about improving how that works. So this is the current situation. And the mess is there because basically all the APIs for desktop for WinRT and UWP are embedded into the operating system. And Project Reunion is, well, this conceptually is easy. So it's as easy as taking those dependencies out and making them available through something like Nugget. And then your app should just, you know, work on any operating system that you like. So it's all about fixing that problem. So if you're, for example, an Android developer, then you have a way to solve the challenge that fragmentation exposes with different APIs, different versions. But with Windows, we don't have such a thing. That's why it's such a mess. So it's Project Reunion is kind of there to solve that gap. And all of this is going to be within or under the WinUI 3.0 umbrella. So WinUI 1 and 2 were just UI toolkits, but WinUI 3 is going to be really a different thing. So it's going to be a platform, a new state-of-the-art that will contain widgets, but also all the necessary SDKs to make an app work on many different scenarios, on all the platforms that we see listed there, on PCs, on Xbox, HoloLens, whatever there is that runs Windows. So that's going to be the state of the art, because if we look back at .NET MAUI, then .NET MAUI in runtime is going to present WinUI 3.0 widgets to the user. So that's, that's going to be like the native approach for Windows is going to be WinUI. That's the easy way to look at it.
Amazing. One thing that I saw today in the Apple conference was that Apple iPhones and iPads applications are going to work in the MacBooks. So the interesting thing about MAUI is you are going to create some mobile projects, but also you are going to create projects that run in Windows and also in Macs. So you are getting all the devices.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're getting broader.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
So can you guide us through C#9, Seba?
Yeah. Well, the really cool stuff about C#9 is something related what Nico told about the MVU, because one important aspect that we have to think about is the state of the application. I don't know if you remember the code that Nico showed, but you are changing the state of the application, but it was not immutable. So this new version of C# is going to incorporate that capability to the structures. As we have a new structure there that is called record, and with that special structure, we have all the immutability aspects, as we can create some attributes similar to a class, but these attributes are going to be initialized, but then its value is not going to change anymore. So it's like a similar regular property that we used to use with get and set, but they are going to work with get and init, and the init method is going to initialize the value of the attribute, and then it's not going to change anymore. So why I'm going to
go through some examples there, because I'm really confused. What's this init thing that you're mentioning? Yeah, it's there, right?
Yeah. As you can see in the property, when you define the property, you usually put a get and set. But if you see in the definition of the variable, you can see that it's read-only. So it's confusing because you are setting a value, but then it's read-only. What is happening there? Well, the thing is you are setting an initial value for the attribute, then it's not going to change anymore. And the thing is that the record, that is the structure that's going to use this kind of attributes, they are going to be compared by their values and not by their reference as the objects are compared. So it's a new concept that you are going to use, for example, for MVU, but it's also applied to some patterns as DDD. So it's interesting, and it is very cool stuff. We have a new sentence there that is with. Using this sentence, we can do a copy of a record, just changing some attributes. Imagine that you have, I don't know, 100 attributes in a record. It's a very improbable situation, but I mean, if you want to change just one attribute, you have to create all the record and do all by your hand. But this way, you just change one value, one attribute value, and then you have a new object, a new record, and it's a very similar because their value are very similar, but just with some specific difference that you made in the first line. As you can see, we changed the last name. And Nico, what do you think that is going to happen if I change the last name and then I change again the last name for the to the original one?
Well, you talk about the equality. So if you change, you would, what would happen there?
Well, talking about objects, if we have two objects with the same attributes and the same values, they are different objects. I mean, if we compare that two objects, they are different. But talking about records, if they have the same values, it doesn't matter if they are different variables or different objects. If they have the same attributes values, they are the same record. So in the comparison, they are the same. Yes, they are equals. Yes, that is something very different. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I have one more slide with C#, and I really don't know what's there, but this screenshot is just hilarious because the way these codes are presenting there. So what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's very funny, and I like that computer there. And if you are able to see this specific recording, is very funny, and they were actually acting as they were in the code in the computer. So yeah, it was very funny. And what
we should do that for next time.
Yes, definitely, yes. And I'm taking a look to the code, and something is different there. I mean, it's where is the main clause?
Right.
Yeah, where is the main and static main method? Where is it?
Right. So this project, this is just one project, just one file. This program, this is that file. So yeah, it doesn't look like something we know or we're using there. So there, as you said, there's no main, there's no nothing. So yeah, this is called top-level programs, and it's there to make C# more appealing to new developers and to make it easier to onboard new developers. So right now with C#9, so creating a new API in .NET Core would be as easy as that. You don't need anything else there. And this is called top-level programs. Whether this is going to be very used is really uncertain, but it's definitely cool that you can have a .NET app that is just one line of code. You don't really need to write a lot of boilerplate that typically new developers would not understand, and that would confuse them. So it's not mandatory anymore. Which is quite awesome.
It is almost like a script. I mean, it's. I'm imagining that I'm creating just an application with a console write line, and it's going to work. It's amazing. It's just
is
one
that
line.
a feature of C# scripting?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Would be nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I mean, imagine that you could use C# for scripting in the browser. It could be amazing, right?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
But it is...
So there's something about that as well. So if you're taking a build recap, there's no way you would not learn about Blazor WebAssembly. So it is stable. It is a thing now. It is encouraged to be used. That wasn't the case before build, so that's why this is important. But what does it mean? Well, Blazor WebAssembly is basically the ability to run Blazor on your browser, within your browser, without going back to the server for any calls, for rendering, anything. It's just going to compete maybe against JavaScript. We'll see how that develops. But what does it mean for myself? Well, if you want to use it, then you need to be running .NET Core 3.1.3. The current version is not LTS, which means it's not going to be maintained in the long run. So if you start using it, then you need to be sure you keep upgrading. you don't stay there. It has support for PWA, pre-compression, debugging, and the nice thing is that you can do Blazor WebAssembly using any of these supported IDEs by Microsoft, and it really provides us with a full stack experience. So it's very cool to be able to debug and to set breakpoints just in a single IDE for your front-end code and for your back-end code. That's just amazing.
Cool, very cool. Yeah. And Nico, there is a lot of new devices going out. I mean, have you touched some of these Surface Duo devices?
No, I would love to, but not yet, I would say.
Yeah, they are very cool, but they are compatible with the current applications. I mean, if you're a Xamarin developer, your Android applications are going to work normally.
Fine, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, you have two screens there, so there is a lot of new scenarios there. There is a new layouts appearing. So this is actually not a new device. I mean, it has a couple of months, but in the build they show very interesting stuff and a lot of new combinations of these layouts. So for mobile developers, it's very interesting to maybe take a look to these new devices. And there is an emulator that you can use to reproduce this device if you don't have. I don't really know who has a Surface Duo now, but I mean, it is interesting because if it is cool stuff, iOS and Android are going to create some new devices with two screens. So I think that is interesting. It is similar to the master detail page layout. I mean, when you have the menu and the detail. So yes, it's similar, and it's very interesting to take a look and maybe to do a proof of concept using this technology. They really show some interesting stuff in these devices. So we really want to.
Cool. And what can you tell us about Windows? Because I think there were some announcements there as well, right?
Yeah. Well, one very interesting announcement is the Windows Package Manager. I mean, now you can install applications, but just with a command line. I mean, like installing a NuGet package, you can install, for example, Visual Studio with a command line. So it is very comfortable because you don't have to go to the web page, clicking one page, other page, go to the download page,
right.
Look to the release version, then download it, go to downloads, executing. So it's very easy to use. You just put the command line as you usually do in maybe in .NET Core, or, I don't know, in Linux, I think, and you can install the application. So it is very interesting. And also you mentioned that Microsoft is taking a look to the human touch in the events. Well, some of this human touch is related to the communication between the professionals. So Microsoft Teams were so used in the events. The popularity of this tool grew a lot the last months, and there is a lot of new stuff going there. I think that is working very well, and
it's really a platform, right? So I hear these jokes. So Microsoft Teams is the new Excel. We'll see if it goes that way, but certainly it's becoming a platform that everyone uses for everything.
Yeah, I mean, I experienced some issues with Teams, but actually we did a meetup in here in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and we used Microsoft Teams for that, and we have 250 people connected, and it worked very well. So I strongly recommend to take a look to the Microsoft Teams if you are not using it, because it is Yes,
Cool.
it is working very well. Yes, and also talking about my Office tools, we had Fluid Framework. Funny thing about Fluid Framework is that in the today's announcements in the iOS 14, a lot of people were comparing the look and feel of the iOS 14 with the Fluid Framework. They say that they are so similar, but the thing is, Fluid Framework is yeah, I don't know if you say all. If you saw all that stuff, but they are working in working all together with all the Office applications and also Microsoft Teams, and it is really cool if you can take it also to the Fluid Framework. And also another thing that was very mentioned in the event was the Power Platform. I mean, I was not really interested in Power Platform, but as you can say, Satya was talking about Power Platform, and there were a lot of talks about Power Platform and using using Azure with Power Platforms. So it is really cool. I was not interested in, but actually after the build, I am taking a look, and it is very interesting technology.
I remember I saw a demo actually about Power Apps, and you can now, if you have a REST API running on Azure, and then a citizen developer, so a developer that would use Power Apps, can consume that API automatically. So just the platform would offer him or her just the API, so all the resources, all the endpoints that are offered from that Azure REST API. So that was really amazing. There are so many things you can do with it.
Yeah. I mean, if you are a non-developer, for developers maybe it's not useful, but I mean, if you are not a non-developer, it's very interesting all what you can create with these platforms. And another interesting thing related to the first stuff of the Windows Package Manager is the Linux integration. I mean, we have the new command line that is so cool. It's very similar to Linux experience, but also now we can run some Linux applications in the graphic mode. That's new and it is very cool. It's very different, and step by step they are integrating Linux to Windows. I don't know what is going to happen in the next Windows version, but I think that they are more and more close. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then we really have some announcements about Azure. So first one is about static web apps. It's not like it was very big announcement, but it certainly is something very useful for us. So it's free. For now it's still in beta. It's free again, and it supports almost any JavaScript framework. So if you have a static web app, then you can use Azure to host it. Works really well. Works with Vue, with Angular, with React, whatever you prefer. Also with TypeScript, I think, but it certainly doesn't support WebAssembly, for example, so you cannot use Blazor there just yet. Then one of the biggest announcements was Azure Synapse Link. So this is all about fixing the gap that there is between your data that's operational and your data that's used for analysis. So if you're working with an app or with maybe a cloud app or with a database that stores operational data from a factory, something from that's gathering data from sensors, things like that, then it's really difficult. It's always challenging to how have those two separate databases in sync. So the one that you use for operational work and the one for analysis. So Microsoft gave birth to this new project called Azure Synapse Link, and now it's as easy as going to your operational database. Generally, I think for now it's Cosmos DB is the only one that is supported. You can just click on the button and good to go. You have a duplicated database that you can use for analysis. That's really great because certainly there's otherwise would be no built-in solution, and you would need to spend a lot of hours there. So it will certainly reduce costs for us, for our own organizations. Then this is also another new tool. There's not much we can really see into that just yet, and that's the developer velocity assessment tool. So Microsoft is also committed, is not just committed to productivity in terms of tooling, but also about helping us to measure that and get better at it. So it's really interesting to see how that will develop, considering that productivity is really difficult term to be defined. But right now, they have worked, of course, with several organizations on giving shape to this new tool that will live in Azure. And right now, I tried to use it, but it was actually broken. So for now, it's just a form that you can fill in with all your data. How is your team's velocity? And then it will just give you sort of a number that would tell you how well are you doing and what direction should you take to improve that, for example. So it's quite cool, but it's more than anything, it's nice to see that it's there and to have an eye and see how that develops. And then one of the biggest one, but we are not emphasizing it too much because it's still experimental. This one is Project Tide. Project Tide is a framework for running microservices. It runs on top of Kubernetes, and it is very opinionated, but it certainly solves a lot of challenges that you need to solve when you're dealing with microservices. So again, this is still experimental. Everyone, I think, expected this year to be the Kubernetes year, where everyone would create apps and frameworks on top of Kubernetes. Doesn't seem like it so far, but certainly this is something that's being worked on by Microsoft. It's open source, of course, so if you're working with microservices, might be interesting, of course, because that's how Microsoft envisions this.
Very cool. You know, Nico, I was born yesterday, and I was developing some Python code.
Oh, you do Python now? That's cool.
Yeah. As you can see, I did some Python code. What do you think
honest,
about my?
Seba, yeah.
What do you think
being
about
honest,
my code?
I know you for a long time, and I don't think you wrote this code. This is, I think for C#, I would take it, but for Python, still, I don't think you do Python that much. So what's the deal here?
Okay, you get me. I got a little help there.
Okay.
Yeah, from a friend that is not a human. This
right.
Yeah, it's a machine. I mean, this code was full generated by a computer.
Wow.
It's cool, very cool stuff. I mean, the artificial intelligence is so advanced today, and
right. So I see instructions there, like comments. So
yeah.
Code was generated based on those comments, or how does it work?
Yeah. They specify just the headers of the methods, and then all the code was generated. It's very amazing. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of losing my job.
Yes.
No, I am not. I am not, because I am very good developer. But I mean, this is very amazing. This is outstanding. So what do you think, Nico? What is the future of the artificial intelligence from the Microsoft point of view? What do you think?
That sounds certainly interesting, and saying that as being replaced, so to say, I don't think that's going to happen. In the end, someone still needs to, develop that machine. So let's hope for the best there. And generally speaking, I think Microsoft allocated a lot of time into artificial intelligence. So there's a talk from the CTO at Microsoft that's actually great, highly recommendable. And he spoke about a concept that's platforms, basically. So he said that AI, to be successful, it needs to be understood by the rest of us as a platform. So if we look back in time and we see at how did all the successful things that we now use and run, how did they become successful? Then he says it all starts when that little things becomes a platform. So if you look at internet, for example, it became a platform. Same about Windows in the past. Same about mobile devices with iOS and the ability to create your own apps. And well, even before that, of course. But certainly, artificial intelligence needs to become a platform, and so that we developers are able to build on top of that, and then it will popularize, and then it will become, the thing of the future. Then we can start talking about the era of artificial intelligence. In that regard, they announced a partnership with OpenAI, and they gave birth to a new supercomputer hosted in Azure. Of course, there's, I think, no other option there. And interesting thing is that they crafted this new computer just less than 6 months, and it's one of the top 5 computers in the world at this moment. The sad thing is that it's part of the partnership with OpenAI, so they are the only people that are making use of it. But for the rest of us, we just need to wait, I guess. And one last announcement that was made for artificial intelligence is the Turing natural language generator being open source. That's basically a very concrete model from made from at Microsoft Research that is able to understand texts and actually answer questions from that text with a lot of context. So basically, if you have children, then just make sure they do their own homework and they don't use this in the future. This is like going too far, but certainly it's quite amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we are going to have developers, artificial intelligence developers, and also artificial intelligence homework solvers, something like that. Yeah.
That's cool. Sounds like the future.
Yeah. And talking about the future, what is going to happen with the people working from home? I mean, maybe now is a natural thing because we have to stay at home, but what is going to happen in the future? I think that we are going to spend more time working at home. And so Microsoft is really helping and providing a lot of tools to collaborate from home and to work remotely and to communicate with each other. So I don't know if you have used this interesting tool that is incorporated to Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code that is called Visual Studio Live Share. That it provides very cool, very cool stuff. I mean, it's not new. It has just one new feature that is the audio calls. And now you can also chat and talk with your colleague while you are sharing session. But if you don't use it, if you didn't use it, give a shot because it's very cool tool. I mean, you can share your session and you can share your breakpoints. You can share your terminal. I mean, if I call command and Nico could see the same in his computer, and also if I run a server here, I mean, I run my web page and I have my local host in my browser. Nico from his browser can use the same server. So with the same name, I mean, if he sets a local host in his browser, he's going to see the same as I'm watching in my screen. So it's very cool stuff. It's very useful and it's very cool to work together. I mean, for pair programming and also maybe with the audio calls, you can use it for job interviews or a lot of new scenarios. But it's very useful. I don't know, Nico, if you use this tool.
Yes, it's actually great. What I love about this is you don't need to switch context. You just stay in the same IDE doing your stuff, and you add a person next to you. You can follow that person, or that person can follow you. You don't need to switch context. You don't even need to go to Slack, for example, and get distracted by anything. Just stay in that IDE, keep on coding. It's nice.
Yeah, and debugging together is cool because imagine you are having some issue and you don't know how to solve it, but you can work together with a colleague and you can show the exception and run it together. So it's very, very cool. And also an interesting tool is Visual Studio Codespaces. That is, it is the new name of Visual Studio Online. That is a Visual Studio Code instance that is running in Azure. But the new thing is you can now use Codespaces from GitHub. I mean, it is not released, but it was announced. And as you can see in the video from GitHub repositories, you will have a button that you can press and then open Codespace, and all the repository is going to be opened in the Visual Studio Online, and you can do your changes, commit to the repository, and then push your changes.
Oops.
And the cool stuff, you don't have to install anything. I mean, it is executing your browser, and it is a Visual Studio Code instance. So you can install extensions and do whatever you want from your mother's computer. I mean, you can be at your mother's home or at your family's home that there is not for developing, and you have nothing installed. You just go to the GitHub, then to Codespaces, and you can push your changes from there. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's quite cool, especially for reviewing code and things like that, or just for that making that little change, that little hotfix, and the fact you don't need to invest a lot of time into replicating your very complex environment. You're just able to instantiate your IDE on the web. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So that's, I think, everything we have, at least for now. So I'm not sure if we had any questions. For now, I would say thank you. Thanks a lot, really, for having us, for listening to us. So we're really happy to be here. And yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, really appreciate it. We do actually have one question from a few minutes ago from Chris, going back to the developer velocity assessment tool. And he's wondering if that works with Azure DevOps.
That's a good one. It's going to be a separate product. Actually, it might be part of both, maybe GitHub and Azure DevOps. Certainly, still a separate thing. I think that's because it's still experimental in some way.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that's it for questions. I think you just did such a good job of covering everything that everyone just understood and got everything covered. Again, really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evenings here. Especially coming from abroad and all this. Like, it's really awesome to be able to do this. So thanks again to both of you for doing this, and thanks as always to everyone for attending and continuing to give us a reason to keep doing these things. Really appreciate it. Cool. And with that, hopefully we'll see everyone in a couple weeks. But until then, stay safe and healthy. We'll see you soon.
Awesome. Stay healthy, people. And thanks a lot, by the way.
Thanks a lot.